Hello guys, welcome to the JavaScript tutorial, and today we'll discuss about Polyfill of Promise, and I will discuss the implementation of then, catch, finally, and we'll add more discussion on chain of then, catch. Already I had a discussion about promise in my previous session. If you don't know about promise, please check it out. Although I'll give a brief discussion, a promise is an object which can handle the asynchronous operation. To create a promise object, we can use the promise constructor. The constructor accepts a callback function which is called executor. The executor also accepts two callback functions, that is resolve and reject. If the operation completes successfully, then the executor will call the resolve method. If the operation don't get successfully, means in case of any error, the executor will call the reject method. To consume the promised result, we'll use the then, catch, finally. Now, we'll see some example of promise, then we'll discuss how we'll write the polyfill of promise. Let p equals to new keyword, then I'm using the promise constructor. The constructor, it accepts the callback function called executor. In the executor, I can pass two callback. One is resolve, another is reject. This is the standard keyword we'll use. You can use any other keyword also. Resolve. If I want the promise to be successful, then I can use the resolve, and I'm passing 10. Okay. To consume the promised result, I can use then, catch, or finally. P dot then method. Then here, this is the data console dot log. If I see the data, this is the promise result. See, now the promise result is 10. If I'll reject this promise, error, then what happens? Let's see. Because I didn't handle that, I have to use catch method to handle the promise rejection. Okay. Here I can use the error console.log, then error. Okay. Let's see what it gives. It's giving error. It's fine because I'm sending only error. Error is defined. Error is defined. Now, if I want to use finally, finally means when the promise gets settled, it will execute the finally, and it will return a new promise. In here, I can use console.log finally is called. Okay. Finally is called. If I'll pass this result also, then finally will be called. Okay. So this is the structure of promise. Now how can we'll create the polyfill of promise? So to create the polyfill of promise, I'll use the class concept. So class my promise. Okay. Inside that I'm using the constructor. Constructor means when I'll just do a call of promise, then it will come to constructor, right? And it will just initialized with the constructor stuffs. So in the constructor, what they're sending, I'm just sending the callback function. Means it's a executor, right? It's a executor, correct? In the executor, I have to pass two callbacks, resolve and reject. For that, I need to write something like, okay, resolve, okay, and I can write reject, okay. In the executor, I'll pass these two callback because I'm passing here resolve and reject, right? The same way I have to pass resolve and reject, okay. And before that, I'll just describe the promise state. When the promise is initialized, then the state is pending state. If the promise gets resolved, then the state will be fulfilled. If the promise gets rejected, then the state will be rejected. Now I'll just give the state equals to pending. Simple. Whenever it comes to the resolve, like if I call the resolve, then what happens? The state will be changed to fulfilled. If it's come to reject part, then the state will be changed to rejected. Okay. Okay, let's do one thing one by one. You can see how the progress is going on. New. We can use the new keyword because it's a class. We are creating a promise object of this. Now we are passing the callback function, right? In the callback function, I am passing resolve or like res or rejected like this. So if I'll pass this res, that means it will call this function. We can see it. Let's see. Console.log the resolve method is called. Okay. Or we can pass this also here. The resolve method is the reject method is called. Now I'm passing 10 means I'm passing some value. So the reserve method is called. So that means we are calling these stuffs, but you're passing something here, right? 10 or data. That data we can store into data, or for the reject we can store into error. Okay. Before that, I just want to use one global variable, that is value. When the state is fulfilled, then I just value will be the data, whatever we are passing from the result. Then in the rejection, then we can put the value error, error, and this is the data, right? It's the result. So the result method is called and it is giving 10 because we are passing 10. To consume this promise result, we have to use then, catch, and finally. First, I'll use the then. Then is a function, right? So you know the then will accept both stuff. One is the resolve callback, or another is the reject callback. Because if you'll see p1 dot then, then we know the promise dot then means the promise result dot then it accepts two callback here. This one, then comma also you can use here. So you can use like this, right? To write this then function, we'll give two callback function. One is on resolve callback, another is on reject callback. Okay. That is clear, right? Now if I'll pass something here, console dot log, then is called, let's see what happened. Showing error, it's showing then is not defined. Okay, then I have to write outside, not here. See, okay. Now that error is not there because I have defined in constructor. I need to define outside of the constructor here. Whenever I'll call then method, then it also return the promise object. In that object also, then finally catch, it will be there, right? So in that way, I'm writing the then stuffs. So it will return a new my promise, right? Because for then also I need to return a new promise object, right? That's why I'm returning a new promise object. In the promise object, I can pass resolved and reject as a executor callback, right? Now the resolve function, which is an array, and this is the reject function, which is also an array. I'll just push this dot resolved dot push. This is the data, whatever the data comes, maybe I'll explain you. In here, I'll check if this on resolve callback is defined, means if I'll pass something here, right, then it will be defined, means it has some value, right? So if this callback, that means we can simply resolve this with the callback function and with the data. Okay, else what we can do, we just simply resolve the data, and all those stuffs I'll just put into the try. Yes, try. Then I have to write the catch method to catch the error, right? In here we can reject that error. Now I can see the then method, how it works. In here I just added the callback stuffs into the resolve function. But how to call these stuffs, like how to execute these stuffs, right? For that we need a function like callback to execute. The function I'll do if this state equals to fulfilled, then whatever the result we have pushed into the resolve function, those data will execute one by one. This dot resolve function dot for each. In here I'm giving the function, and this function will just call it with this and this dot value, because already we are storing the value, and this callback to execute, I'll just call it here. Because I need to execute, I just push the stuffs into the resolve function, but I need to execute the resolve function array, right? For that I am calling the callback to execute. Now I can see this is working or not. The result method is 10. This is then is called. The result method is uncalled undefined. Why this is in? Ah, because I'm not passing any data. Now if I'll pass here data, means I'm trying to get data from the promise result. That's why I'm passing this callback. Okay. Now if I'll see, then is called, but if I pass the data, see then is called data comes. So that means we have created the polyfill of the promise and then method is working, right? Now we'll try to understand how it works in the global snippet and I'll do the debugging. Just creating one snippet here. So first I'll just put the debug here, then here, then here, here, then here, then I'm giving here, here, then here. First we are calling this result stuffs, then it comes to result. Yes, it's a fulfilled. Then we are storing the data in the value. It's fine, done. Now it's coming to then because we are calling then dot then. So dot then means this method will be called, right? We are returning the new promise with this resolve and reject executed. Okay. Now if you'll come inside, this callback step will be stored into the resolve function and it will go this method callback to execute. Now if you come to execute, I know the state is fulfilled because already we have passed this race, right? Race, that time the state has been fulfilled. So it will check, okay, it's a fulfilled, then it will go inside. In the resolve function, we are storing this the data with the stubs. Now if you call this function, you're calling this function. You're passing this dot value. This dot value means we already stored this 10 into this dot value, right? Call this function, it will come here because I'm just executing this function. If this is defined, it come inside this if block in here. We are calling this callback function with the data. If you're calling this callback function with the data, that means it will come to here now. See? It will print here, then we are just passing this data, like I'm not returning anything, that's why it's coming undefined with the result. And if it's coming undefined, that means the data is undefined. Now if I'll pass something here like return to into data, and I'll catch this result in another then method, data1, data1, and it's another then. First we'll check the output if it's working or not, then we'll debug one by one. See, another then is called, it's giving 20, that means it's working fine. If we'll do the debug, then we can understand. First it is coming, okay, this is not undefined, it will go inside, then it will come to here. Yes, and when I'm returning something, right, this returning something, it is giving me the data 20. This data I'm storing into this dot value. Now the this dot value is 20. Okay. For the next then method, I'm calling the again this function and I'm returning the promise again. Then you're calling the callback to execute. In the execute, you can see the status state is fulfilled. Or in here, you can call this function. Then this is the result. So now we'll try to implement the catch, because if I'll do the reject here, then what happens? See, then nothing impacts. Then nothing happened because I didn't write the functionality for the reject. So in here, I'll add the same thing. This dot resolve the reject function. This is the reject function dot push. Then this error. Okay. In here, I'm checking. Okay, if this on reject, then simply just resolve this data on reject with the error. If it's not there, else but, then simply reject the error, and everything will do into the try catch block. I'm giving catch here, error itself here. In here, I'll just give reject dot error. And in the callback execute, I have to write another stuff. If this state is rejected, then what we can do? We can just use this concept, but only I need to change the array name to reject function. And after this, I need to clear this resolve function here also. Yeah. Now let's see it will work or not. Till it's not working because I have to catch the error or rejection. Console.log catch is called and this error data. Okay, now let's see. It's throwing an error. It's saying catch is not a function because we didn't define catch. Catch function here. For the catch also, we are passing a callback, right? Here I'm just writing uh, reject callback. Okay. From the catch, we can call this then method because we know then is handling on reject callback also. Simply this dot then I'm passing on reject like this, because whenever we need to catch any error, then there is no need for this resolve callback, right? We have to pass only the reject callback, and I need to return this to create a new promise. See, catch is called 10. That means we can catch the error. So now I'll discuss about the polyfill of finally. In finally, what happens actually? When the promise gets settled, then the finally will be called. When the promise gets settled, then we can call the finally and we can return a promise from there. If we want to execute some function or something after the then or catch, then we can use the finally. So I'm writing the polyfill for that. Here I can use finally equals to then function. So in here it will come like on finally callback, right? Yes. What happens if I'll call this finally here? console.log finally is called. Okay, if I use the finally, then in here if we'll pass this dot, then this dot catch, then if we'll pass okay undefined, then this on final callback, then again we return this dot, then passing this, then undefined. Finally is called, right? After that, if I'll call then what happened? Finally console.log, then after finally is called. See it work or not? Yeah, it's work. So it is returning a promise, that's why you are getting the then options. Now if I'll use some catch method, like if I'll call a method which is not defined, then see it will register in the catch or not. Okay, console.log error, then the error is error. Okay, see error, then the my name is not defined. That now if I'll write the stuffs with set timeout, then what will happen? Let's see. Set timeout. Already we have discussed how set timeout works. If I'll give 100 millisecond, then what it gives? It is not giving anything. We can do some debugging so that we can understand why it's not giving anything. So in here, what happens if I try to execute with the set timeout? That means after 100 millisecond, this will be called, right? So before that, what happened? If you call this then method, then we are registering all those stuffs in this resolve function or in the reject function. But that time the state will be pending state. When you call this dot callback to execute from here, then it will be not executed because till the time the status will be pending. Okay, when it will come to in this reject 10, then it will come to here. So at that time the status is fulfilled, but I'm not calling this method from here, so that's why we are not getting any data. For that you have to call this method callback to execute from this resolve or the reject method. Okay, call execute this dot call execute method or this dot call execute method. Now you can see the result. See, now I'll just do one thing, removing all the stuffs. The catch is called stain, right? Now if I'll just resolve the value, then what happens? You can see then is called 10 and we are returning the value, the data one is 20. So that's how we can write the polyfill of promise. And I hope you guys understood the concept. If you guys don't, then please let me know. Thank you for watching the video. Please subscribe and we'll meet you in the next session.